Hello and welcome to Module 2, Lesson Design. Now that you've established a solid foundation for performance, you are ready to design the content and activities necessary to achieve the stated outcomes. The goal of effective lesson design is always to help students achieve the performance objectives. This involves two basic decisions: what to teach and how to teach it. It's that simple and that complicated because with the internet, you have at your disposal an unlimited supply of worldwide resources for which to choose content and activities. There are three simple rules for designing effective lessons. They must align with the objectives, they must inform the student, and they must engage the student. First and foremost, the content you decide to teach and the method you decide to use must align with the stated objectives of instruction. Instead of spraying buckshot hoping to hit something, take direct aim at the target. Design content and activities carefully and strategically. Let's look at an everyday example: teaching your child to tie his own shoes. Since the performance objective is for your child to tie his own shoes, the lesson design might include a shoe tying demonstration, step-by-step breakdown, supervised step-by-step practice, putting it all together, and unsupervised practice. All these activities are perfectly aligned with the desired outcome: the child tying his own shoes. With resources like YouTube and search engines like Google, course designers can easily be enticed to include activities and resources that on the surface appear interesting and fun, but actually do nothing to help students achieve the intended performance outcome. Always keep your target in sight. Let's look at the second rule. They must inform the student. After you decide what you're going to teach, research your topic to ensure that what you are presenting is the correct information. It must be medically accurate, relevant to EMS, and reflect the most current best practices. Refer to the latest evidence-based information. Resources include peer-reviewed journals such as Pre-Hospital Emergency Care, online websites such as EMS World, the latest textbooks, and trade journals such as GEMS. This is worth repeating. Providing current, accurate information based on the latest research and best practices in EMS is the most important component of any lesson. Let's look at the third rule. They must engage the student. Engaging students is all about getting their attention, keeping it for the length of the session, and sending them off inspired to learn more about the topic. First, you need to get their attention. Adult learners typically live busy, stressful lives with a host of responsibilities. It's important to get off to a hot start and get them focused on your topic. An old school three-step method works well to accomplish this. To get off to a hot start, try dropping a bomb. BOMB stands for background, objectives, and motivation. Background. First, start out with some general background information. Nothing earth-shattering, just something to get your students focused on the topic. A good example from our asthma class is this slide from the CDC, illustrating the prevalence of the disease in the U.S. Objectives. State your performance objectives. Tell them what they're expected to be able to do at the end. Remember, the better they can see the target, the more apt they are to reach it. Motivation. This is the most important part. This is where you light the fire. Tell them why the topic is important. Adult learners typically will learn what is relevant to their lives, so give them a reason to learn what you are teaching. Now that you've got their attention, you've got to keep it. Students tend to be more attentive at the beginning of the class and at the end. Your challenge is to keep their interest during the middle of the class, where their minds naturally tend to wander. You're probably familiar with the cone of learning. This body of research describes how much students will be expected to remember 2 weeks after a class. The more active the learning process is, the more interested your students will be and the more they will retain. Encouraging students to become active participants rather than passive watchers is the key. As a group, adult learners want to be engaged, so engage them as often as you can. How do you do that? Here's another old school tip. Plan an educational wake-up call at least every 10 minutes. Some examples of wake-up calls include knowledge check questions, video clips, drop-down menus with additional information, stories from the field, action scenarios, surveys, and demonstrations. The key is to do something different, but also interactive and relevant. Passive learning is the least effective, so why design a class that is totally devoid of interactive features? It's also important to provide information in a logical sequence, going from simple to complex concepts. Identify the appropriate sequence for presenting the material so that you build an escalating body of information in a way that is easy for the students to understand. The ancient Mayans built pyramids that still stand because they placed every new block on top of a strong foundation of blocks. In the same way, effective instructors establish a base of knowledge and attach new material to this existing framework. Identify the appropriate sequence for presenting the material so that you build an escalating body of information in a way that is easy for students to understand. Help your students learn by building pyramids of understanding. Here's an example using our asthma class. First, build a solid foundation of basic knowledge by reviewing epidemiology, anatomy, and physiology of the airways. Then, describe the pathophysiology of an asthma attack with special emphasis on the anatomy and physiology of the normal airway. Then, discuss and demonstrate how to properly assess the respiratory system with a special emphasis on the pathophysiology of asthma. Finally, present the proper field management of an acute asthma attack with a special emphasis on the previously learned information. If the flow of information is logical and repetitive, student success rises. And whether it's reciting the Pledge of Allegiance or tying your shoes, repetition is the essence of learning. The final rule of engagement is sending students off with a powerful closing that not only reviews important take-home points, but more importantly, inspires them to further explore the subject. Engaging is all about whetting their appetite in the beginning, feeding that appetite during the middle, and whetting it again at the end. Remember, your lessons should help students achieve the stated objectives, be relevant, current, and reflect the best practices in EMS, encourage students to engage and participate, build a pyramid of understanding.